we have to be careful when we talk about the concept of Pan-Africanism, of romanticizing it. Because, oh man, I'm going to work with my brother and sister, and it's going to be great.
I would love to be in an environment where I don't have to worry about racism.
We talk about Pan-Africanism almost as being an exchange of information, ideas, goods, just culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. What can the African Americans and those in the developed world bring to Africa?
Sound.com.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Sankofa Sessions. I am your co-host, Kofi Annan, along with my man,
Kofi D, but I'm not a co-host. You're not a co-host. We're hosts together. So what is that called? Co-hosting?
Yes. I think that's the definition
I'm sorry.
of co-host.
I mean, I thought you were trying to be like, I'm his co-host. No. It's one and the same. We co-hosting together.
That's right.
What's
All
going on, brother?
What's going on, my man?
Man, happy Veterans Day to all the people that have served in our armed forces. We're both veterans of the United States Army, so no hoorah, no aim high, none of that stuff. Shout out to all the other branches of the military. As you can see by our attire, it is getting nippy outside. So you got on the coat, I got on the pea coat, and it's Veterans Day, and hey, the year's passing by. So whenever you see this episode, happy Veterans Days to our fellow brothers and sisters in arms.
We apparently just had our first snowfall, which I totally missed. I don't even know what happened, but that's what they say.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, snow overnight, things like that.
It's crazy though, because we had it was like 80 degrees like the day before.
Gotta love Virginia.
It's, yeah, I don't even know what to expect with the weather no more, man.
Hey, but guess what? The election's over.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was very fun.
Was that what you expected?
Yeah. I expected the Democrats to, what they call it, a blue wave. Yeah. So what is it called when the Republicans win?
I don't think they got a term.
What's Crying Man? I call him Crying Man. He always be on CNN crying. He worked in Obama mansion. Van Jones.
Van Jones.
Yeah. He did he cry this time?
You know what? He didn't, but I think it actually kind of pissed me off a little bit. I was watching his reaction to the Mamdani election, and he was talking about how he was basically criticizing the speech itself, like his speech, and saying he was like too angry or something like that. Like he's supposed to like come back all. He was expecting Mamdani to be more of a unifier or something. I'm like, you can't be that naive. You can't think that somebody who is a declared socialist that just took out Andrew Cuomo, just took out, went up against the entire Democratic establishment, the Republican establishment, the billionaires in New York. You think he's gonna come out there like as a unifier? No, that man came. He is there to tear things down.
True.
You know what I'm saying? And like that's the message that got him there. That don't let that smile fool you. Like that dude is a killer. Like you have to be a killer to accomplish what he did. So
I agree. I think the thing is with him and Van Jones, he's used to the Obama type figures. Even when Obama won, Obama was a unifier. He brought everybody together. It's like, hey, kumbaya, we're going to get together.
Right,
so a lot of the establishment politicians, they're not used to that. Well, I take that back. They are used to that brash politician. We've had it twice in 10 years with Trump.
I'm saying they just haven't seen it on the left.
They haven't seen it on the left or whatever.
Right.
But I am very glad to see the signs getting picked up out of the road and streets and no more political commercials because we get inundated. I mean, shoot, you can't even watch Netflix with being like, this is a message sponsored by so-and-so. Did you know so-and-so is going to take your Chinese food away? What? Take our Chinese food away? When did they say that?
You know what I hate the worst, though? I hate political ads during sports. For some reason, like that's my escape.
Yeah.
And it's like
There's no escape.
and I'm watching the Commanders Detroit game over the weekend, and we got the president in the booth.
That was
I
hilarious.
was like,
So hold on. So let's think about this for a second, right? You're a military guy. I'm a military guy. Let's think. A lot of people don't understand that there is logistics when it comes to a high-ranking official. I've never been around the president. I take that back. I think I was in Afghanistan at Bagram when one of the presidents came. I can't remember. It might have been Trump, first Trump. But when you have a high-ranking official, and you can attest to this, being around generals and stuff, it's a lot of coordination behind the scenes to get the plays ready, to have them, not even have them, to have their presence, the thought of their presence there.
Right.
Because somebody's like, oh my God, he might be coming.
Right.
So we got to make sure that if he does come, we got to have everything in place. And it's the littlest stuff. It's like, oh my God, that left grass blade that's 16 centimeters away needs to be cut. So when he walks by, he won't know that grass.
Not to
blade
mention
is
this
off.
man already had at least 2 assassination attempts.
Yes.
That was crazy.
And the last thing the Commanders needed, somebody dying at their game. Right?
I mean, he was,
Yeah.
Look,
The game was already messed
the
up.
game was enough of a tragedy.
Left hand up, right? That's what y'all say. We the
Something like
Commanders.
that. Left hand broke. Everybody hurt.
Well, the thing is, we're talking about everybody today, right?
Yes, sir.
We're talking about people being together today. Pan-Africanism.
Pan-Africanism.
Right?
Yeah, so basically the Pan-Africanism, for those of you who aren't really familiar with the term, it's a way of uniting the African diaspora, right? The whole idea behind it is that like um, uniting parts of Africa, you know, people who from the diaspora who want to go back to Africa. How does that impact, you know, the people in Africa? How does that impact the local economies? How do the people feel about that? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. What are some of the barriers to Pan-Africanism? So yeah, I think it's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of people who are in the diaspora who are thinking about moving back, and we can kind of talk about, you know, why that is and so forth, you know, especially now, you know.
Because see, Pan-Africanism has its roots in some historical leaders like Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah. W.E.B. Du Bois spoke about it. You know, he actually was an African American that went to Ghana. I think they have some commemoration in Ghana of him. I think it's either not a mausoleum, but there's a museum. There's a museum.
He actually used to live there.
Yes.
Yeah, he used to live there. Yeah, I was able to visit it.
Really?
Last time I was out there.
Yeah. I haven't visited it yet, so I'm gonna have to go by when I get there. So there's a lot of historical figures that were preaching Pan-Africanism. I also got to say, Muammar Gaddafi. And there's a couple other people that have, you know, had this concept of Pan-Africanism. But a lot of times what's in spirit of idea lacks an execution, or it's hard to execute. And I think that's one of the things we're going to dive in deep today and talk about why has it been so hard to execute? Because, I mean, let's be honest with you. Well, Africa as a whole has the most natural resources out of most of the continents here. We have the highest birth rate of children. So we're producing more people. When the rest of the developed world is declining in population, Africa's actually increasing. And then you take that in combination with blacks in the diaspora. We have large populations of blacks in the diaspora from Brazil to the United States, the UK, Canada, that live in these first world countries that have like true economic power. So what is the dividing factor where you all can't get together?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the thing was like Pan-Africanism. I think at first there was a struggle for liberation, right? And so I think the term morphed, or the meaning had different significance over the time, right? So like whether it's liberation from colonialism in Africa, liberation for equality and slavery and to end slavery and things like that over in the diaspora. Like the pull for Pan-Africanism started off as a liberation movement. You know, fast forward to today, like liberation isn't so much the rallying cry. The rallying cry, because a lot, you know, most have all most, if not all, African countries have independence at this point? Are there any still
I,
considered
I
colonial?
mean, they're not technically,
Technically,
but I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. But
shout out to the Chinese food in Ghana. If you haven't had Chinese food in Ghana, man, that is some of the best thing ever. And they never build like here they build small Chinese restaurants. You can tell it's just to either sit down, which nobody ever does, and they got the people. They got two, three people cooking in the back. I don't know if you saw when you went to Ghana.
I did not.
These Chinese food restaurants in Ghana be elaborate palaces.
Mm.
So it make me think they're doing something else there too. But I'm not gonna get into that.
We got
Legal
do
mind.
y'all have Ghanaian Chinese food? Like in Guyana, we actually have Guyanese Chinese food. Like we have such a long history of Chinese people being in Guyana that they actually like it's like a fusion type of thing where there's certain things that you will only get in Guyana, Chinese food.
I don't think we do, but hey, if you can't put that in the chat or put that in the comments because I haven't experienced and I've been to Ghana, enough times to experience it, But I've never
Yeah,
had Ghanaian Chinese food. That's something I'm gonna have to look into.
yeah. It's definitely something unique about Guyanese Chinese food though. But anyway, what were we talking about?
We were talking about
Okay, yeah,
Pan-Africanism
yeah.
and the
So
historical. We were talking
right,
about the
right.
historical stuff. If I could, so
Yeah.
you know, around people have to understand that colonialism is similar to civil rights in the sense of, excuse me, its timeline, right? We're not talking about civil war like in the United States where something happened in the 1860s. We're talking about most African nations got their independence in the 1900s, like Ghana in the 50s, Nigeria in the 60s. You're talking about Egypt, I think, was early on, if I'm not mistaken, maybe like in the 20s or 30s. You know, Ethiopia, of course, was never quote unquote occupied outside of the skirmishes and the battles they had with the French. And then Liberia, of course, was created out of freemen coming from America to West Africa and creating the nation of Liberia. But most nations, if you look at it, between the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s, that's when they got their
Mm.
actual independence.
Yeah,
So
Guyana we got our independence in '66.
66, right? So
Yeah.
there's people alive today that are barely senior citizens.
Yeah.
They're
My
barely
mom can
senior.
tell you stories about how when we got our independence. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah. Now this I think people forget how young these countries are, and that's just because you got your independence, as we get into, doesn't mean that you're actually free. Doesn't mean that you've been able to kind of relinquish all those vestiges of colonialism because they didn't just like, all right, fine, y'all can have y'all go, you know.
No, no,
Like
no, no.
no, it's
They
like
let you
no,
go.
yeah, we gonna still be able to extract as much as we can, and so yeah, so that was the original push for Pan-Africanism. It was this unified fight for freedom and for liberation.
Because
Um,
what people don't understand, and I'm not saying this as you don't understand, but hey, history is the best teacher, and sometimes we miss facts about it. Is during that struggle of independence, especially for sub-Saharan Africa, I'm going to exclude Saharan Africa because their fight was different in the sense of their relationship to the European powers and colonial powers, where, they were Arab and a lot of the Europeans saw them or saw those places kind of like as their playground and stuff. I mean, you look at Libya, you look at Egypt. I mean, even to this day, there's still strong European presence there because of their proximity and also too they seem to be a little bit more quote unquote civilized and the weather is a lot more tolerable. You don't have the cases of malaria and stuff because you have to be honest, back then when we didn't have the technology, a lot of things were weather and climate dependent. So hey, if I'm gonna colonize Ghana and Nigeria where malaria is prevalent, I'm dealing with tropical humid areas. There's a whole bunch of considerations versus if I'm going to Libya, it's a dry arid climate. I can get away with a lot more things during that time of the struggle for independence for most African nations, they had to band together because once the colonial powers let their grass go, they didn't have the resources, especially I can speak to in Ghana. And like I mentioned, my dad actually was alive when Ghana was the Gold Coast. A lot of African nations didn't have the manufacturing power. They've always been blessed with natural resources. But hey, you may have to go to a Togo or Benin or Burkina Faso to get a natural resource that is not produced in your country and then the manufacturing may be in another country, right? So you had to trade off, and then guess what? This country may be going through a famine or going through a shortage, and it was only right to help your neighbors. So it wasn't so much out of pride, it was a lot of times out of necessity, because these countries were fledgling nations. You didn't have infrastructure. Even to this day, cocoa, one of the main exports in Ghana, rots because we don't have the logistical capabilities to harvest and store in a sense where it will not spoil.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
but I mean, so a lot of that, if not all of it, was on purpose, right?
yeah,
Like when colonialism officially, like these economies were set up to extract. They weren't
yeah,
as set up to develop anything, right? Like whenever people think of chocolate, what do they think of? Germany,
yeah.
German chocolate, or whatever, Nestle, or all these big companies. That stuff comes from Ghana. That
That
stuff
comes
comes from,
directly from Ghana.
most of that stuff. Not, ain't no cocoa farms in Germany. You know what I'm saying? Like this stuff. So like they set up the refinery. They set up all the things to basically exploit and expect and extract the natural resources from whether it's minerals, cocoa, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, like I think like 70% of the world's cocoa comes from Ghana.
Yeah, it does.
But they don't actually make any of the money off of it. So
So would you say like Pan-Africanism came from a source of necessity in the beginning, but now as we transition to the 80s, 90s, and then the aughts, which is the 2000s, and now, what is the reason for Pan-Africanism in your opinion?
So now I think it's a little bit of a people are trying to reconnect. It's about reconnecting for heritage reasons. I think a lot of people have a desire to kind of get in touch with their roots, reconnect with their past. We all been everyone, at least in the diaspora, has been disconnected intentionally from their African roots, and I think a lot of people want to reconnect. I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is the political climate. Like in a lot of places, in the West, there's it's always been kind of hostile, but there's almost like a reemergence of that hostility, and or an intensity of that hostility, and a lot of people, I tell you, like myself included, are like, you know what, I want to see what's going on over there. Like I would love to be in an environment where I don't have to worry about racism. I'm sure there are a lot of other issues, but it's like, hey, look, I for one am one of those people who really just kind of sick of dealing with it, sick of fighting it, and I think there are a lot of people who are thinking along those lines.
Yeah, so one thing I could say, and this is just a personal opinion, so please nobody kill me on the internet, and if you try, you can't. Um, we have to be careful when we talk about the concept of Pan-Africanism of romanticizing it. Because, oh man, I'm going to work with my brother and sister and it's going to be great. I want that. We all want that. You want that, don't you?
I would love that.
We do. We all. But there has been a concerted effort to divide us. There's also just cultural differences, as we talked about and we will talk about on this podcast, that we have to understand in each other. And lastly, one of the things about Pan-Africanism is it is a morphing idea. Because I think a lot of times people think of these concepts such as like Pan-Africanism or liberalism or conservatism as these static concepts. Like if you fall in the box of A, B, C, and D, you subscribe to this ideology. They don't understand as the world changes, as we grow in technology, as we grow in globalization. Because guess what? I'm more likely, excuse me, to know about your culture now than I ever has been. If I'm a person from Ghana, you're a person from Guyana, I got this thing here. Yes, I'm an Android user. I got this thing here that I can learn about your culture and I can immerse myself in it without even speaking to you. And I think that gives us, I won't say false sense, and I'm going to tie this idea together. So please bear with me. I think gives us a romantic view of everybody's culture. But I think once you try to execute, and that's what I was talking about, Pan-Africanism, the idea versus the execution has not caught up with each other. They haven't. What do you think about that?
The idea of Pan-Africanism, modern
Modern
Pan-Africanism,
Pan-Africanism
has not caught up with the execution.
No, we want to do it, but it's a lot of work.
So I think it's complicated because reality is we've been apart for so long. You know, we've been apart for centuries. You know,
Yeah.
So yeah, we've grown apart. You know, so yeah, there's cultural differences. There's animosity. Some of it was ingrained in us. You know, in especially here in the West. Well, I'll say both ways. It probably for different reasons. I think there's different parts of the diaspora look negatively upon other parts. You know, we don't have to get too deep into that.
Yeah, that's a story
But
for another day.
yeah. But I mean, yeah. So there's not this automatic universal sense of brotherhood that would be great. So yeah, I mean, but then there's also like the practicality of it, right? Like someone coming from America going to Africa to live, like, okay, how are you gonna fit in? Do you want to fit in? There's a lot of people who Americans who go to, these African countries and then they create their own like community.
Yeah.
So they're not actually trying to integrate into those communities.
So let's expand upon that because we want to be together. And I think, like you said, the execution is complicated. But I guess in what parts can we foster collaboration in? Because Pan-Africanism can't just be an idea that scholars, it's just like people get on television and get on these podcasts these days. They be like, oh yeah, the idea of Pan-Africanism is great. We need to promote it. Well, what the hell are we doing? Like people talk about ideas, but it has to be an action. Like there has to be a call to action to do something. Because you can philosophize and hypothesize and sit here and have intellectual debates, but if you don't give people a actual action move to say, hey, this is how you do this, they're just gonna sit there and talk the whole time. So what is it, in your opinion, Kofi, that we can do to foster Pan-Africanism?
Oh man, put me on the spot right
there. Man,
you want me to fix Pan-Africanism on the fly?
Hey man, the man right here.
I think that there are things that are being done, right? Like I know there's in Ghana and probably some other countries as well, right? Like so Ghana started the year of the return.
Yes.
And then they had another initiative called the Beyond the Return.
Mm-hmm.
And then and all of these things were meant to welcome back members of the diaspora to come in, right?
Yeah.
They even set up a diaspora office, of diaspora affairs, to help to build business connections and to help people who are interested in coming back to be able to kind of figure things out, understanding that there are some practical challenges to moving halfway across the world. So I think that's a good step. I think there have been a lot of good steps in the last couple of years that help to bridge that divide.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I put you on the spot. Let me put myself on the spot. Right? I think one of the first things we can do is read. I think that's the easiest thing. Read. Yeah. I was looking at the Boondocks.
Where did I get that from?
Where?
Chappelle. he had this little piece where he was like, every time when he was in school, the teacher would go around and have to read out loud. And he was like, read. I always think about that every time I say read.
Your version of that is my Boondocks. And he was like when I think when Huey went over to get Riley from Thugnificent's house, right? And he was like, yeah, he's like, hey son, your brother be telling me how you be reading it. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yeah, them books be hard, my son. The books be hard, bro. He's like, man, he said he be reading them books, he be having them words, it be big and long and everything, bro. I was like, I watch the Boondocks at least once a month just to reground myself. You know how people clean their spiritual palate? That's what I do. I clean my spiritual palate with Boondocks. That's what I do.
I got one more.
What's that? You be reading them big words, son?
No. What's it? Don't be a menace.
Oh man,
What
was
she was
drinking
like,
your juice in the hood?
yeah,
Okay,
he
okay.
was like, the grandma was like, you think you all that just because you can read.
Yeah, yeah. Or dreams are for suckers, right?
But yeah, we gotta read.
Yeah, well, you got to
We
read.
gotta
I
read.
think that's the first thing, and we're not asking you to read long, complicated books, right?
You
But I
should
think,
read long, complicated books.
yeah.
Read some damn long, complicated
Well, and
books.
this is a perfect segue into it. If you're ever in Petersburg,
Yes,
right?
sir.
We have Resist Booksellers, our wonderful host here, right? Shout out to Resist Booksellers here. They have a wonderful collection of books that cater to the African American people. But guess what? There's books here for everybody, right? So please come here to Resist Booksellers and come shop, right? You can buy
Read.
your book, yeah, read, right? Them big words, son, be hard. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, right? But just learn a little bit. Like, if you know you're going to interact, if you're in that space, because everybody's not in the space to want to collaborate. A lot of people are just living their lives, trying to scratch out an existence and take care of their family. We get that, right? If you don't want to go above and beyond, that's fine, because guess what? You're a great person regardless of what you do. But if you're going to step into the arena of trying to be enlightened and try to achieve, you know, some higher level things, and you want to enter into this realm of Pan-Africanism, you have to read. You have to read some things, right? I know Kwame Nkrumah has a few books. Marcus Garvey has a few books.
I'm reading his autobiography right now.
Who?
Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah, I know he had a book.
I've been reading it for like
Consciousness.
5 months, but
It's fine. As long as you're not like LeBron. LeBron is on the first chapter of the Malcolm X book every time he's in. Shout out to my boy LeBron. You know, I think he's on the first chapter of Malcolm X's biography for like 10 years. So I mean, it happens. But read a little bit, learn a
yeah.
little bit more. You'll be surprised when you actually learn a little bit more about other people's culture. You'll go down a rabbit hole. It's kind of like when you're on Instagram and you're on the explore page and you see a beautiful woman, and then you start swipe. You see the picture, but then you go swipe and keep on looking at the profile. Y'all, some of y'all know what I'm talking about, right?
I
When
have
you
no idea what you're talking
no,
about.
you shouldn't have any
I
idea
have
what I'm talking
no
about.
idea.
But it's the
I don't
same
even.
thing.
There's women on Instagram.
Yeah.
Dang, I didn't even know. News to me.
Yeah.
All news to me.
Yeah, it is. Whatever, man.
So speaking of, social media and
Mhm.
stuff like that,
Makes it
like,
easier.
yeah, I mean, yeah. So I mean, yeah, you should read to get some more depth of knowledge. But like YouTube is good too. YouTube, you could find out there's a lot of good,
Travel.
travel channels. So like when I was getting ready to head over to Ghana, I was trying to figure out where should I go, what should I see, and stuff like that. And yeah, it just took me down rabbit holes of like there's just so much stuff to see.
Next time you
So
go, please go by my aunt's restaurant.
I will.
Please.
I will. What's the name of the
Two
restaurant?
point one Tavern in Timma.
All right,
Two
cool.
point one. Look for shout out to
For sure.
my cousin Cuckoo and my aunt Emily. Go by there, get some fruit. Hey, if y'all watching this, please hook Kofi up.
I'm coming. I'm
Yeah,
coming for
yeah.
sure.
Please make sure, and then drinks on me. I'll pay you later. But so going back to that concept of what can we do, if I can expand upon another thing we could do,
Mhm.
I think it is to lower our sense of judgment. I think a lot of times we meet people from other cultures, and either we're not curious, unfortunately,
Mhm.
or we're curious in a way to our detriment, where we already had these preconceived notions
Mhm.
of certain people. And I think if we can lower that a bit, especially if you're the one, if a person from the continent of Africa comes here, I think you, in my personal humble opinion, you should lower the level of judgment, not on the person, because if a bad person is a person, but lower judgment on their culture, because a lot of times you be like, well, I heard y'all do this.
Mhm.
Well, okay. Well, did you ask me?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's a good point. I mean, I think somewhat related to that too is don't go over there with the same expectations of like life is going to be the same in as America, or don't be comparing everything to America, right? Like just because you're if you're used to a certain standard of living or a certain level of whatever, like yeah, it's going to be different over there, but guess what, it's different all over the world. I mean, the truth is, like, there's majority of countries in the world have places where dirt roads, right? You know, so like don't go over there. I'm not saying that obviously Ghana and these places are fully fully built up and they look like most cities, but there are other parts where yeah there are dirt roads, there isn't running water, there stuff like that, and so like don't go over there and be shocked and look down on the place or anything like that if you come across differences. um
So let me ask you this, right? We talk about Pan-Africanism almost as being an exchange of information, ideas, goods, just culture, right?
mhm.
Let's do this. What can African Americans and those in the developed world bring to Africa? Profound question.
So yeah, nah. So I think that's a really good question because I also think the flip side of that is that some of these African countries are being selective as to who they want to come over. They don't just want like I'm okay. I'm making a real general statement here. So like I say they, when I say they, like bear with me here.
Okay, now be
But
careful. You
I'm
don't want
trying
to
to
upset the FBAs
I'm trying to
and
parse
the,
my
and
words.
the DEAs and the ABCDs and the
Right, right.
EFGs. Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, like some of these, I think the governments in particular of these countries, they are trying to encourage people with money and entrepreneurs and
Mm-hmm.
people who are looking to invest. And I think that's their top priority. So just because you're looking to escape some whatever it is you're experiencing over here, and you just want to be over there just to be over there, doesn't that they're going to roll out the red carpet for you. I know there's a lot of talk about like getting free land and this, that, and the other. Like I think
I was about to make a joke.
yeah,
I was about to say in America we got 40 acres in a mule. In Ghana you get 40 acres in a stool. But I'm sorry. Sorry to my Ashanti people. You will get it. Never mind. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but I mean, like there is a desire to encourage entrepreneurs over there, and I think that's also part of the culture over there too. There's a strong entrepreneurship culture.
There is no safety net.
Yeah, there is. They don't have that same safety net.
People,
So
school is mandated, but we oftentimes know in third world countries there is just now becoming a national ID system. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
you're fine.
One of the things I think people take for granted in the developed world is the systems of systems, right? Prime example. When you're born, you get a social security number, right? Most 9 times out of 10, you're born in a hospital, right? You also get a birth certificate, right? When you go to school, you get a student ID number. When you live in a house, you have an address and a zip code. A lot of these developed nations don't have those basic systems, right?
Yeah.
There is no way, there is very few ways of, hey, how can I systematize? Because a lot of times, if I'm in a village or even if I'm in a city like Accra and I put up a contraption of a place to sell my stuff and I get the permit, but I don't get assigned an address, I don't even have that. Or I'm born in a village, right? And then I come down to the city. When was he born? I don't know. Shoot, like 10 days ago. When was that? Then you get assigned a birthday. What year was he born? Oh, he's talking. He must be 5. Is he? I don't know. So I say that, and I know it's funny, but I say that is the systems we have here is something that in the third world is very hard to do. Go ahead and continue. I'm so sorry. I didn't
No, you're
interrupt
fine.
you.
No, I think that's a good point. As to like what to expect and whatnot. But I forgot what I was saying.
Well, if I could, right?
Yeah.
Going back to what can Africans or Black Americans, FBA, whatever we're calling ourselves, or blacks in the diaspora, what can we offer? I think what we can offer is just what I talked about. We know how the system works. A lot of us have worked in the system, right? Hopefully, by the time this releases, the government is open and all the government workers are back. Because a lot of blacks have, especially around the DC area, have built their wealth through the federal government. A lot of us were or are high ranking officials in the government service and the GSA agencies and all the agencies. So we have expert knowledge of how the system works. And guess what? I'm not saying you need to go back over there and create the system, but you can bring improvements. You can become consultants. You can become people that are subject matter experts, as we used to call it in the military, to advise these people, to advise these nations, these growing nations. Or it doesn't even have to be the country. It could be a local level government, right?
Mm.
On how to do things because they're still trying to think. They're still trying to work on things. America is what, 250 years old, I think? I think we're at
Mm-hmm.
250 now.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine what we were like in the first 60 years?
Yeah, yeah.
I think we had the Articles of Confederation. That was before the Constitution. We had the War of 1812 where the British came and waxed our ass. Like, there was a lot of things going on in the first 60 years of America. So how are we going to expect these African nations to just be like, dun, 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 I'm perfect? Don't do it. It can't be that way. So we need to bring our expertise to if you are so inclined, because the door is open in many African nations. It just says you have to come with an open heart and an
But
open mind.
if I could though, I think there's also the other side of that coin
Mm-hmm.
is that don't go over there thinking you know everything or that you're better than them or
That's
that
true.
they like you like some of the like they have their ways of doing things,
True.
right? They have their culture, they have their systems that may not look like our systems, but it works for them, or or maybe it doesn't work so great, but whatever. But the point is like they don't go. I think sometimes you know Westerners, Americans, whoever, they might go into a situation and they be like, "Oh, well, let me show you how this is done," or let me, or look down at people if maybe their timelines aren't your timelines, maybe their way of doing things aren't your way of doing things. We talked about this before, like corruption, like maybe part of their system is that in order to get something done, you got to slip this person some change, and that's their system. I mean, you might call it corruption, but like that's their system.
Hey, some people call it corruption. I call it a way of
That's
doing business.
that's their fee. That's part of the fee is that you got a informal fee, and then it's informal, but is it corruption or is it just part of the system? So I think also just switching your mindset up, like just because you don't do it like this here doesn't mean that you need to look down on the way they do it over there. You just need to kind of fit in some ways, you know.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I agree. And I think Pan-Africanism can be the exchange that I think Pan-Africanism could be the vessel that we didn't have during the transatlantic slave trade. And what I mean by that is when we were forced to get on those ships, we had to band together in a forcible in a situation that was forced to kind of create a ad hoc culture, but we didn't have the ability to actually do it in freedom.
uh
So if we're going to use the vehicle of Pan Africanism, I think the best way today to do it is to, have an open mind and have an open heart because we didn't have that opportunity, you know, 200 years ago when we were, 16, 19 starting, we didn't have that opportunity to go back and forth and say, hey, I learned this from being in America. It was like, hey, guys, we got some place we want you to work at. It's a lovely place. And guess what? We're going to make you work for free. And you're never going to see your freedom again. Don't it sound like a deal? No, come anyway. Right? That was the deal they sold us, right? So,
yeah,
now
yeah.
to flip the prism. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead,
I was
please.
going to say to flip the prism, what can Africa offer those in the diaspora?
So okay, before we get out there, I have one more point I wanted to make,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about not it's kind of related to what I was saying before, right? But like there is a when you go over there, especially if you have money, right? There is a problem of gentrification, right? Like
Mm.
the prices will go up. Now all of a sudden you're pouring money and Western money into these economies, which is good, but also recognize that you're also still gentrifying neighborhoods, and some of that is going to create some animosity from the local people. Now all of a sudden they can't afford to live in communities that they used to live in. Now there's neighborhoods being torn down, and high rises coming up and stuff like that. So I'm not sure, I don't know what you could do about that, but it's at least something to be aware of if you're coming in from the West and and you're looking to buy. At least there's something that you need to be um, mindful of.
Well, I mean, this is going to be an unpopular take, and it is what it is. On the topic of gentrification, right? I guess I got to say it right if I'm going to make a hot take. You have to take care of what you have, and people won't gentrify it. I know nobody wants to hear that, but ultimately there is some systematic and there are policies. We know about redlining, we know about steering, we know there's a lot of things, especially in this nation, that has kind of led down the path of gentrification. That tends to be the end result because of how the way things you got neighborhoods that are cut off, and you'd be surprised how highways and stuff were routed. But in Africa, I think there is enough opportunity for everybody. I just think that you have to figure out a way to take care of what you already have, in addition to in a collaboration with the new people coming, you know. But
40 minutes.
what we can do is I think that cultural exchange. I honestly, this is a crazy idea I got. Right? Can I say it?
Mm, go for it.
I think majority black cities need to have the sister city program or sister city initiative or brother city, whatever they call it. I think it's sister cities,
Think a sister.
right?
Mm,
I think they need to work to have s- cities or towns in Africa to collaborate with them if they're able to.
mm.
I know some majority of black cities and towns, they barely, and they're gonna be like, well, we ain't got no ties to them people. Well, I guarantee you, with all the ancestry of 21 and Me and what's the other one? Um,
Uh, Ancestry.com. Yeah,
Ancestry.com and
yeah.
all the DNA tests. I will highly guarantee you there are large swaths of people who came from a certain area, especially in places like the South. Like if you talk about the Geechee people, I bet you if you do their ancestry, and they've done it before, I just can't recall it at this time. They're from a certain part in Africa,
Mm,
right?
mm.
Why not have a cultural exchange, which they may already have? But why don't we do that more with majority black cities? And I think if your city is over 50% black, there should be, and you have a black mayor, right? I think you should try to reach out to a nation over in Africa and do like a cultural exchange. What is it going to
Yeah.
cost you?
Well, shoot, I mean, to that point, we should also shout out ourselves
That's
because,
what I was getting to. See,
you
look
know,
at you. You are a great co-host.
I tell you, we just vibing over here,
Man, I
you
tell
know.
you.
So here we recently set up a cultural exchange program called Sankofa Scholars,
Yeah.
where we're working with students from the Petersburg High School and students from the Fafali organization in Ghana.
Shout out to Raymond.
Yes, sir. To kind of help bridge that gap, to increase the communication, do some cultural exchanges, maybe even do some travel. And so we're starting them young. A lot
Yeah.
of a lot of these kids from both sides don't really get that exposure to to their peers,
Yeah.
over there. And so we help them try to tear down some of those barriers at an earlier age.
Yeah. We're 78% black here in the city of Petersburg. Richmond, I believe, has kind of crept down about 37 to 40. I don't know now since Richmond's been trending, more diverse, but I think it is a good thing to do. And I think the larger cities, like places like Baltimore, like that is majority black, right? I think if you do that, man, you would have a lot of impact. I know there's a lot of domestic problems, but hey, you never know. We can learn from each other because that's what
Yeah.
Pan-Africanism is, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, and learn from each other. I think that's the goal. Yeah, that should be the mindset of like, yeah, we're not just going in this to teach you, but what can I learn from you? Because there are a lot of things that Africans do that we can learn from. There are
Vice
a lot
versa.
of there are a lot of so it's not just all like just because we are more quote unquote developed, here economically doesn't necessarily mean that that's not the end all be all. There's a lot of things culturally, how we treat each other, how our family systems, structures, things like that that we could learn from them, and even economically. I mean to be perfectly honest, there's a lot of things that are being done in Africa that are ahead of what we're doing here technologically because they're leapfrogging someone like the wired systems and things like that, whereas like some of our infrastructure is so tied to wired infrastructure, whereas they didn't have that. So they leapfrog that whole generation and they're just going straight wireless with like a lot of money transfers and things
Yeah.
like that. So we shouldn't go into it thinking like, oh, I'm here to teach you. I say we as in Americans, but what are y'all doing over there? Let's have an open mind to make sure that we're exchanging ideas and making sure that we're not, you know,
Yeah. I mean,
learning.
it's one of those things that, like they say, we can teach each other, and then together we're stronger. You know.
Sure.
Well, hey, look, we want to tell you all thank you for your time. Thank you for watching us. Please, if you haven't, please hit like and subscribe on the channel. Trying to grow our following here. We plan on having guests, plan on having panel discussions as we talk about the various topics that cover all of the diaspora. Shoot, you never know. We might even do one on location. You might get us to do one on location live in Ghana or live in a country near you in the West Africa, East Africa, North, South, whatever the case may be, even the Caribbean. We need to go out there too. And I
Yes,
think a
sir.
lot of times people forget about there is a large black population in the Caribbean and Brazil. I think Brazil has one of the largest populations of quote unquote black people, even though they speak Portuguese. They're still our
Shout out to
brothers.
Jamaica going through.
Jamaica,
They just got hit with that hurricane. Hopefully, sending our prayers and thoughts out to
I
all my
tell you,
Jamaican folks.
I tell you, our people are so
Jamaicans,
resilient.
Cubans. Who else got hit? Haiti.
Yeah, I don't know if Puerto Rico got hit. Yeah. Next time,
I don't think so.
Trump need to use a Sharpie to draw the little thing so it won't hit it because he draws a Sharpie and then the storm goes the other way. But hey,
Um, Also, just before we head out,
what's
just want
up?
to give a book suggestion for the day is Pan-Africanism, A History by Hakim Adi.
No, okay, maybe.
So,
Oh
yeah,
no, he's
he's
missing the
missing the
H.
H. He's missing
He's
the
missing
H.
the H, so we might be related.
So, yeah, but yeah, check out that book here. I believe Demetrius is going to have that one. So if you want to come check it out, Resist Booksellers.
And we'll put the link in the bio and in the notes and descriptions for the show. Because guess what? You don't have to be here to buy from a black-owned bookstore. You can order online. So please support our brother as he's been a gracious host for our podcast. We love you guys. Peace and
Peace.
out.
Insound.com.